Welcome into Zoom action. We have rebranded ourselves here at KSR. Out with the old, no more floppy action, in with the new Zoom action. Mark Pope has introduced a new offense here at Kentucky, and we're only one preseason game in, and we are loving every bit of it. With that, we've decided to usher in the new era with a new era of podcasting here, or basketball breakdown show, whatever medium you want to call it. It's more of a show, but we're going to change things up a little bit this season. Got myself, Zack Geoghegan, hosting things around here. Brandon Ramsey. Sorry, Brandon, I butchered your name there. Who has I always forget the number. I think it's 8 years of coaching experience at the college level. We're going to be doing the same thing we did last year, just with a little bit of a faster pace to it. Ideally, Stephen Peak, who is producing behind the scenes here, has introduced us to technology created by a high schooler that is just unbelievable. We can actually draw on our screens now and point things out. And we have a little bit more of a detailed offense to go over and cover this year. So we're just going to kind of jump right into things. We're going to go to Kentucky's first preseason game against Kentucky Wesleyan. We are recording this on a Friday. That game happened on Wednesday night. Just to kind of give a little bit more background, Kentucky won 123-52. Brandon, that is a lot of points. Is that right?
That is a lot of points. Yes.
That is a lot of points. 123 would have, I think it would have tied like a regular season record or something like that. Stephen, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong or something like that. But yeah, we saw a lot of points. We saw a lot of threes, a lot of transition, a lot of sets, actions, just a very smooth, well-organized offense. The defense looked a little bit good too, but we're not going to talk about that yet. We've got a whole season to go into the X's and O's of defense. We are literally going to start with the very first play of the Mark Pope era. Brandon, I'm going to turn it over to you. We'll let the play run first, and then I'll turn it over to Brandon, and he will break down the X's and O's of what we saw here. It wasn't a Zoom action play, but we will have some Zoom action plays going forward. But Brandon, why don't you take us through this first run of the first ever play of the Mark Pope offense here, and show us what you saw and what kind of how the themes we saw in that play will maybe transition along throughout the whole season.
All right, so here on the first play of the Mark Pope era, first play of the game against Kentucky Wesleyan, there's a few different actions that Kentucky's going to get to in this same set play call. Amari Williams slips this first screen on the perimeter for Jackson Robinson right into a diagonal cross screen from Otega Oweh. And there's a really kind of intricate key point that we're going to get to here because as you see, Amari Williams has a 6'5" guard essentially switching onto him here at the block. He very easily could duck in right here, slam into number 33, and probably get a dunk for himself. However, the play is still developing, and we have a flex screen coming for Andrew Carr, also set by Otega Oweh on this play. So Amari Williams lets himself kind of come off of the block more and gets his catch right here because then that gives him room to throw the flex screen pass to Andrew Carr, who scores it. Now, a couple different things still to talk about here. First and foremost, it's just good to see a player like Otega Oweh setting two different screens on the same play. Like that off-ball screening is not something that we've seen necessarily a ton of from Kentucky teams in the past. And then also you have Amari Williams' passing ability being utilized right away. He had 6 assists, tying Lamont Butler for the team lead against Kentucky Wesleyan. He was second on the team in assists at Drexel last season. So he's a high-level passer, and you see that utilized right away here. And I think that's why he was such a priority early on in the transfer portal for Coach Pope, because he fits this offensive system so well. And obviously he gets his first of 6 assists here. But then also you see that in order to have room for Andrew Carr to cut off of this flex screen underneath the defense, you have to have a shooter here in Jackson Robinson. If this guy's a non-shooter, then number 12 can be all the way in here at the SEC logo, just clogging things up so that Andrew Carr has no room to cut into. But because you obviously have to respect Jackson Robinson as a shooter, that leaves all this space here for Andrew Carr to get the first bucket of the game.
As we move on to our next play here, you will see the end result ends up being a Jackson Robinson mid-range jumper. But mid-range jumpers, especially in this scenario, are a good thing. Kentucky scored 123 points against Kentucky Wesleyan. 119 of those points came from either behind the arc, inside the paint, or from the free throw line. So the play that you're about to see is one of only, 4 points in the entire game where Kentucky went outside of those 3 areas to get their points, which is just not something we've seen very often. Steven's going to flex a little shot chart here. Oh, look, it's right there. I can see it myself. As you can see, there's only two made shots. One from Amari there on the left side of the screen, just outside the block, and then Jackson's mid-range jumper on the right there that you see. Those are the only two shots in the whole game that came from those bad areas, whatever you want to say. So Kentucky has clearly, they're emphasizing the modern basketball. Mark Pope is. That was what he talked about from the moment he arrived at Kentucky, and we saw it very early on in this entire first half against Kentucky Wesleyan. So we'll go ahead and run this play here, and we'll see just exactly how Jackson Robinson gets himself set up for, which is pretty much just a wide open mid-range jumper from just inside the top of the key. You get a staggered double set up here. They miss on Amari Williams, but it's set up for Jackson Robinson, who has his defender go over the screen, setting him up for a easy step-in jumper just right inside the arc. 2 easy points, boom, on to the next play. Something we'll probably see a lot. Brandon, I will let you start from the jump here, and you take us through the X's and O's of exactly what you see.
As Zach mentioned, you have just a traditional staggered double screen to start things off here. And I think from the beginning of this this trip down the court, I think Andrew Carr knew the whole time he was going to curl this just to get Jackson Robinson coming off of the single. One of the things that is so great and so hard to guard about this offense is that even Kentucky's players don't necessarily know what's going to happen each time down the court. It's an intricate offense in terms of the freedom and the amount and the kind of the multiplicity that you can get each time down the court. But like each time down the court, like the offense is essentially the same. It's just a matter of what you get to. Like in theory, because Andrew Carr's defender goes underneath the Jackson Robinson screen, like he could have popped back here and probably gotten a pass from Lamont Butler and taken a 3-point shot. But early on in the game, there's no reason to take a deep three with 24 seconds on the shot clock. So he goes ahead and curls the screen. Now, one thing I pointed out on Twitter is that, and I've talked about this before with this Kentucky team and going through some film from BYU as well, Coach Pope's teams consistently do such a great job of finishing their cuts through the rim. And what I mean by that is look at how Andrew Carr, he knows he's not going to get the ball, but he gets himself all the way down here towards the block to finish his cut at the rim. And why is that valuable? Well, right now, look at where number 34 is. That's not the guy that was guarding Andrew Carr, but he had to go with him because he was helping on the screen, because Andrew Carr pulled 34 down here towards the SEC logo, which then made Jackson Robinson coming off this screen completely wide open, as opposed to 34 being all the way up here at the free throw line. So all these pieces work together, and that cut by Andrew Carr is really more than anything what got Jackson Robinson so wide open for this jump shot off of the down screen from Brandon Garrison.
And another layer to this, and what we talked about off screen beforehand, is the freedom that Jackson has in terms of kind of how he goes about taking this shot. As he curls around Brandon's screen here, you see his defender trails him over the top. If the defender goes under, Jackson will pop back out right behind Brandon there, probably have a wide open three. Lamont is going to find him there, but the defender goes over the screen. Jackson notices that. He receives the ball easily from Lamont there. And then it's just an easy turnaround shot that he probably takes hundreds of times a day, similar to that. So, and then you also have another smaller angle is you have a 50% 3-point shooter in the corner, where if you wanted to maybe make Andrew Carr that first option on his initial cut, he's probably going to be open if he wants to try and get the ball, because this corner defender is so attached to Kobe there. And you have an area there where if Lamont is in his stance trying to feed Andrew that ball, he could probably make it happen. But obviously that the play continues on. Brandon sets a nice screen for Jackson to free him up. Not Brandon Ramsey, Brandon Garrison here. If Jackson was a guy that I thought might pass the ball or average more than like assist and a half a game, he probably could make that pass. I don't think that's something we'll see a lot from Jackson, just because I don't think that's necessarily in his bag. But it is an option there, and there are players on this team that can make that pass happen. And worst case scenario, Brandon is right there for a really good opportunity in offensive rebound. So all in all, just a very smooth, fun play. And I think the fact that we're highlighting a mid-range jumper after all we've done over the last few years, just kind of complain about mid-range jumpers, is kind of a beautiful, perfect, some might call it annoying picture that we've just painted. So I was a big fan of this play, and it's one that Brandon Ramsey and David Sis have mentioned a lot on Twitter, and it's gotten a lot of traction. So it's one we definitely felt like we needed to point out because it's going to be something that you're going to see a lot with a lot of those screens on one side of the floor, and the ball being worked on the other side, and the synergy that we'll kind of see meeting throughout the middle there. So awesome play here, Brandon. Anything else you want to touch on it?
Yeah, one of the things too, and you're kind of joking about us here in exhibition game number one breaking down a mid-range jump shot that seems to be counterintuitive for what we all want in the Mark Pope era. But I think what's important is, and Zach, you and I talked about this earlier, was that it wasn't like this play was designed to get a mid-range jump shot. This wasn't some master plan of Coach Pope saying, all right, we're going to get Jackson Robinson some 17-foot pull-up jump shots today. It's all about what the defense gives you, because as Zach did mention, if this Kentucky Wesleyan defender goes up through this screen, meaning on the right shoulder of Brandon Garrison as opposed to the left shoulder, then that would just trigger Jackson Robinson to flare it, step behind the screen, and have a wide open three here from the elongated closeout. But as most defenses would, because Jackson Robinson is such a good shooter, most defenses are going to chase him off of screens, meaning they're going to go over the top and kind of chase behind on Jackson Robinson's hip. And that gives him these mid range jump shots. So, yeah, is this a super analytically friendly jump shot? Maybe, maybe not. But when it's wide open, I think he's going to make a lot of these. And again, it's about, this wasn't what Kentucky necessarily planned on getting out of this set. It was just out of this offense. It's what was given to them. And I think that those type of mid-range shots are the ones that are okay to take, it as opposed to maybe in the past it being more of a structured look where you're actually wanting to get some of these shots. Now you're going to see Kentucky only take the ones that they quote unquote have to or that are given to them. And that's why you end up scoring 123 points with really only 4 of them coming from this sort of area.
And that will wrap us up here at Zoom Action. We are just trying to tease things, give us a little introduction to what Mark Pope's offense will look like for the rest of the season. Ironically enough, we didn't talk about any of the 21 made 3-pointers that went in the other night. Don't worry, we're going to be talking nothing about 3-pointers probably for the rest of the season. We just wanted to lay the base of kind of the small basics of what Mark Pope's offense will look like, how a lot of it is kind of based on feel, but there's also a lot of organization and structure to it at the same time. And just kick off the new era. We're Zoom action now, no longer floppy. We're all Zoom now. So we're really excited to try and cut things down a little bit more, make it a little bit easier to understand. I don't know if you liked Brandon's green little drawings there, but it made it a lot easier for me to follow. So hopefully it did the same for you as well. And we'll continue to do these after probably every single game at this point, or just kind of we'll feel it out as the season goes along. But if we can make them short like this and do 20 minutes, we'll do that, and we'll do them as consistently as we can because we can do them all remotely now. But we're going to end the episode, and we're going to try and we might do this for the rest of the season as well. We're going to see how we feel about it at the end, but we're going to do kind of a segment that I've stolen from a basketball podcast I listen to. It's called "It's Just One Game, But." Brandon, I will let you start. It was just one game, one preseason game, but
The defense was so encouraging. And, obviously I'm more of a basketball nerd than most, probably. And
take a hoe.
I get excited about things that a lot of people probably don't even know are happening. But I was so impressed, and some of it, unfortunately, I think we've been conditioned into like these exhibition games being harder than they need to be because probably there's a little bit of a lack of preparation and things like that. There was no lack of preparation in this game. Like this looked like we were playing Tennessee in Knoxville on a Tuesday night in January. Like that's what excited me as much as anything. And I've talked ad nauseum on Twitter at this point about like how much of a game wrecker Lamont Butler is as a perimeter defender. Like I am all on board. Like Cason Wallace, Ashton Hagans, Tyler Ewells, great defenders. Lamont Butler is a better defender than all of those guys. Like
There we go. That's the hot take I wanted.
just like
That's what I wanted.
there's not even a conversation to be had in my opinion. Like it's that high level. He is the smartest basketball player that I've seen at Kentucky in a really long time. He plays hard. He is a leader, and he can take over the game. The dude had 6 steals. And yeah, it's a Division II team. Yeah, it's an exhibition game. But the fact that it was so evident that they walked through and were aware of the fact that Kentucky Wesleyan ran Princeton offense. And they were one of the things I brought up on KS Board was I was impressed at how Kentucky didn't allow themselves to be screened. That's something that we've seen in years past where guys just kind of consistently run into screens, maybe a lack of communication, maybe a lack of preparation, maybe a lack of toughness, whatever it may be. We were not allowing ourselves to be screened in this game. And just little things like that, I think, when you're doing them in a Division II exhibition game on October 23rd, then I have a pretty high level of confidence that when the going gets tough and you're down 3 points in Knoxville on a Tuesday night in January, like I feel like that you can get some things done if you're already doing them at this point. So, yes, it was just one game. It was just one exhibition game, but I was really encouraged by just the kind of the mental toughness and fortitude and attention to detail of this entire group because I just don't think that's something that we've always been accustomed to in years past, regardless of the talent, regardless of everything else. Like this group is together, they're tough, they have attention to detail, and that can allow you to win some games when the going gets tough throughout the season.
Yeah, I vividly remember the steam coming out of your ears when we were doing floppy action and talking about some of those defensive possessions last year. So definitely a change this time around. For me, it was just one game, but Amari Williams is the best passing big man Kentucky has had in 20 years, I think. The one play that sticks out to me in particular is where he blocks a shot on the other end, runs down the floor. This is in the middle of the first half. One of the plays that we didn't choose. But Amari Williams catches the ball on the fly, running full speed in the middle of the paint, whips the pass all the way, pretty much almost at least halfway across the court to Amari Williams, who does a sidestep, open three, bang. One of those plays that you're just like, Ali Khalifa was another guy UK was thinking about. He's not making that pass. Not many guys are making not just the pass, but the whole play itself. Blocking a shot, running the full length of the floor is really the big thing for a guy like him, especially as the last guy who probably started the fast break because he just blocked the shot. He was underneath the basket to run all the way back, get yourself back involved in the play and be willing to catch a pass in the paint and not think to score first, but to find the wide open shooter was awesome. He had 6 assists in that game, or maybe 5 assists. He's just an excellent vision passer. One of the plays, or the very first play we saw where Amari purposely put himself a couple feet out from the block is just very representative that it's a weapon, and it's a weapon that Coach Pope wants to utilize a lot. And I'm just a big fan of it. I think he's going to be awesome to watch, and I never thought that I would love to just be like, I can't wait to watch this 7-footer pass the basketball. But that's where I'm at right now, and that's what I'm going to be looking forward to for the next game. But I think that's going to wrap us up here. My last parting words, go sign up for KSR Plus. We have a promo code right now. You get I think it's 7 days for $1. Stephen can throw the graphic up here in post-production or whatever to get that promo code to join us. You can get similar stuff from Brandon and myself where we're just talking about Kentucky all day long over on KS Board. Brandon's scouting reports now are going to be on KSR Plus as well. So if you want to read, did you want to read 2,000 words on Kentucky Wesleyan? I did. And I had an idea of exactly what we were going to see when they took the floor the other night because of Brandon's report. So you can get those there as well. Any parting thoughts, Brandon, in our new rebranded Zoom action? I guess we're going to need to whip up the new logo and everything, but it'll be fun. It'll be good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really fun year. For people that enjoy this show, that enjoy the X's and O's, or if you're just looking to learn more about basketball, I think that's one of the great things about this show is it can also be an educational piece. Just if you want to understand some of the crazy words that Jimmy Dykes is saying on the SEC network sometimes, like Zach and I got you covered, and we'll try to educate you a little bit while also having some fun. But I think again, yes, it was just one game. We'll use that again. But like, how can you not be excited at this point for Kentucky basketball? I'm not saying it's going to be sunshine and rainbows for 40 games this year, but so far there's been a lot of sunshine and a few rainbows. So I hope you continue to stick with us here at Zoom Action. I think it's going to be a really fun season.
Absolutely. And we're going to, like I said, we're going to continue to go more in depth with the actual offense. This was just kind of to get our bases set up. Like I said, we didn't talk about any of the threes. A lot of the threes that we saw from that game were transition based stuff too. So once we can get more just, clean sets and things that are more appealing to the eyes and kind of actually are actually laying out like the actual offense, and we can kind of see what maybe Mark Pope is thinking a little bit easier. But anyways, guys, we will catch you all next time. We'll see you next week. This has been Zoom Action episode 1.